So when looking at the book, I was going to read some more, but apparently I'm going to go back a few pages and redo that because, yeah, no. So I was reminded, because of what I wrote, there was a situation, and I wrote about it in, I think it was Finding the Silver Lining, and I wrote about a few of these situations. And or Finding a Silver Lining, either one, both possibly. So, used to go to Midnight Rodeo every now and then. Alicia Discordia, also known as Erica Discordia in Fat Life, the one that got arrested for stealing garden gnomes out of people's front yards. Her submissive showed we went to the Midnight Rodeo in San Antonio, and because I like country music. I like country music. I know what I look like, I know where I'm from, I still like country music. So there were a couple situations that happened all in one night. First, when Alicia went inside to go get another drink, there was a guy who came up to me and he was like, "Hey, you look familiar." And I was like, "Where do I look familiar to you from?" And he was like, "Were you ever in basic training?" I was like, "Yeah." And he said he was stationed at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. It's like, "Oh, okay." He looked like the guy that was the one who had like never allowed any female that was in basic training to walk on the floors without with having their boots on. They had to take their boots off at the door. And I was like, I remember telling him if that was the same guy during basic training. Actually, that's the way it is for like at my house, like, and meaning like when growing up, but still the same. And anyway, so I take the shoes off at the door, and he's like, "Yeah, well," he explained to the bae, and then when I talked with him later, that he does the buffing of the floors, and I'm like, "Yeah, you're gonna walk around with the boots on the floor and still scuff it up and blame it on us." Yeah, I know what you're doing. Like I mean, I get it. It's part of basic training in certain regards. That's, yeah, I get it. And so, so that guy and I talked for a little while, and as soon as Alicia showed up, he kind of took off, and it's like, all right, well, whatever. So then there was a situation with a guy that had needed to be removed by the bouncers because he started stuff. I know that sounds childish, I don't care, but he started stuff, and he was all like grrr, he had supposedly done a bunch of stuff. I was like, yeah, well, like most guys who do a bunch of stuff that you're like talking about, they don't usually go run their mouth like that. And he got all upset, and then Alicia went and said, "Oh, she's got all this dumb in the drunk of her." Shut up. Don't get me in trouble with there are bouncers here. There are police officers walking around. I have nothing to hide, but don't get me in trouble. Like, just shh. And the guy just wouldn't stop. And so he, blah, 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 blah. And so I thought that it would be a way to diffuse the situation with a little bit of humor. Apparently, it had an opposite effect. Because he was running his mouth about how big Gerard he was and how big he was and all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, well, I got a snake that hangs lower on my leg than yours does. And if unraveling Methuselah, definitely going to be longer. Apparently he didn't take that too well. He was like, "What do you mean?" So I lifted my capri, and I was like, "See, that's Methuselah. Hangs lower on my leg. If you were to unravel him, good couple of, probably about 2.5 feet." What? Apparently he didn't take kindly to that. He did not apparently like my joke. And I was like, but it's true. That's the tip of his tail. It's lower on my leg. Just saying. But he threw a temper tantrum, and the bouncers had to take him out. And so the other part that, before going on to this, was there was a female who worked at Midnight Rodeo, and she was one of the waitresses. And whenever Alicia and I went there, and we didn't go that often, but still like talk a bunch. And I told her I wasn't a drinker and stuff like that, and so I would only drink soda. So I'd always give her quarters because her mom or her grandmother always was collecting quarters, especially since um, the federal mint was putting out the state, like individual state quarters. And so, maybe your grandma will have something that she doesn't have already, and here you go. And that's how I would tip her, so she could have, good memories with her mom or grandma. And then, she would be happy, and then afterwards she'd be able to have that as a constant, reminder of good and stuff like that, like a positive set of memories. Which I wound up seeing her, and apparently that's what happened. And I was like, hey, that's cool. I mean, I am sorry that, she passed, but at least, each individual one. So, that particular night after the grrr, whatever. And so I wasn't trying to be mean. I was really just trying to diffuse the situation. Who knew that? I do not have one. I have strap-ons that I can use. So, I guess I could see that now. Yeah, different sizes. Yeah, you can't change yours. Little late. It's only been a few years. It's only been since like 2012 or 2013. So, Anyway, so, I think it was 2013. No, somewhere around there. Towards the end of 2012, towards the beginning of 2013. After I received the messages from Matt saying that he didn't want to be involved with me anymore and stuff like that, and is not making light of it, just they didn't also realize certain aspects. So there were these males that all four of them were wearing the same color shirt, and it was kind of a light blue, kind of like that, but a little bit darker. And they were just typical, like, they kind of seemed like preppy guys that were like used to getting whatever they wanted, and instead, they wound up meeting me. And you can tell it's not going to go well by that. And so leaning against the wooden fence that's outside, I don't know if it's still out there, but there's a two post wooden thing and then fence line. Kind of ironically, almost like the unfinished version, because in New Jersey, the house out there had a white version of that. But apparently it got knocked down. But anyway. So I'm leaning against that, and the males are speaking mainly with Alicia, because they saw how much she was drinking, and I was like, yeah, they're not going home with you. I'm not gonna allow that. And that was before I met her dad, by the way. So really glad. But anyway, so so I'm leaning against the fence and I'm smoking a cigarette. And one of the guys, and again, those who know me know I don't usually pick up on certain things. Like if I don't feel that there's threat, okay, I'm wearing a corset. When in certain places I'm wearing a corset, okay, well, I'm wearing a corset. But like at that, I was wearing a t-shirt that came to here, fitted, as sweetheart cut silver with like kind of triangular, about an inch, but tank top straps, and then like the pants and stuff with like shinies. And so I'm just leaning there, it's like, okay, whatever. And then I just get this weird feeling. And for me to pick up on that, people who know me know that if I pick up on something like that, then like, absolutely over the top. So I look, and one of the four males is just staring right here. It's like, I'm just going to, and he just, his eyes just go with it, and he actually like went down, and I was like, and then when he realized, like when I was below the second bar, he just kind of stood up real quick and he was like, "Oh, if you're offended, you can slap." And before he could finish the word slap, I went, "Bah!" And he was like, "Me?" Oh my gosh, she slapped me. And Alicia fell over. Alicia, was not just because she was drunk, just because it was funny. And she was just like, "Oh, you let her? You let her? You gave her permission to slap you in the face? You know she's a dominant, the sadist. You let the sadist, you gave the sadist permission to slap you after you offended her? Oh." And she was just, it's like, "Oh, get up." You know? And so that guy wound up being helped off, you know. I mean, I can't believe she slapped me. I mean, I told her that if she was offended, she could slap me. Who would have thought she would have slapped me for, offending her? Yeah. Apparently me. So, wound up, ignoring that. Well, one of the other four were talking, and he had said that he and his ex-girlfriend from Chicago went to BDSM events in Chicago, that he and his ex-girlfriend were from Crystal Lake, Illinois, and I was, lived there for a while. And so we were talking. Alicia is like, "Oh, why don't you bring it with it?" You know that Mike is really not gonna like this guy, right? You know Mike is not gonna like him at all. And she's like, "No, Mike will love him." I was like, "No, I don't think he will. I have a feeling Mike will not. I have this weird little guesstimation. Mike is not gonna like this guy. I have a feeling." And she was like, "No, Mike will be perfectly fine. You should get me." I don't think Mike is gonna like him. I really don't think Mike is gonna like him. No. He posts his stuff all over Craigslist. It's perfectly fine. Alright. I don't think it's smart though, but fine. So he wound up going with us to an event at Mike's, and it was one of those, I don't think this is gonna go well, but whatever. So, the guys that I usually spoke with, and they male dominance, females, all that sort of stuff. It was it was all in respect and stuff like that. I didn't try to dominate any of the male dominants. I'm sure a couple might have attempted, but then realized, yeah, that's not going to happen. So we could just talk. So then we just, and that's what wound up happening a lot of times. And so a bunch of the guys that would just talk with, who is this? Well, he's saying he's not. So you're here with Lady Dori, Belle? It's like a guy. It was just real. That's what you probably. I could do that too. I had no idea what was going on there. That is an obvious. I could do like, rawr. I can get on my tippy toes in my heels. I mean, I'm not wearing heels now, but then I was. And so, go out to the smoking section, which was out in the backyard. And all of the chairs were kind of in a circle and everybody's talking. Well, the boy, biologically adult, he wound up saying that he was a part of the KKK. I look over at him and I'm like, "What did you just say?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's big and great." What? I mean, and if it is or was, I had no idea, which That is what it is. But he goes on, I'm like, you can't, like, you cannot talk like that. I start berating him in the middle of the circle. And everybody's just, did he just say that he looks up? So what? And I'm just, just, and he had said he was a former Marine, or well, he said ex-Marine, and then there was a clarification in that regard. And so it was one of those like, I can't. And I walk inside, I was like, you go speak with Alicia, because you disgust me. So then I go inside, and I go into the common area, and there's a whole bunch of people in the common area. Mike's doing his thing with one of his females, and this boy just keeps running his mouth, and I just am seething. And there are people in the common area, and they're looking at him like, why are you talking? Like, who gave you permission to speak, boy? I mean, who do you think you are coming in this place, running your mouth like that? Who do you think you are? And, because by that time, what he had said out in the smoking section had obviously really quickly gotten inside. And I'm looking at the boy, I'm like, you need to just shut it. Just stop. Do not make me freaking, do not. Because if you push me, you're going to be upset with what I do. I promise that. And so he keeps running his mouth, and he has like the attention of everybody, and I'm just like, Mike? And he looks at me because of what he was doing. He's like, yes. And I'm like, would you mind not doing what you're doing because you're using needles, and I don't want you to have an accident because of what I'm going to do? I'm not trying to take away from your scene. I just don't want you or her to get hurt. Do you mind? He was like, okay, because he and everybody knew that I'm not that type of person that would like directly, purposefully interrupt something like that. So that was one of those, oh, that's a big fucking red flag right there. Okay, Lady Dori, well, not that he said that, but it was just, okay. Okay. All right. And so the female sat up, and I look at the boy who is still running his mouth. I look at him, I said, so, I got a joke. You should pay attention. And everybody just, you could, like, for the people who had literal collars on, they're like, she goes, oof. Yeah, we've seen her chew somebody out before. This one, she's given a warning that she's about to chew somebody out. Ooh, wish this was a smoking section. And I look at him and I'm just like, so, I got a joke, and I'm going to let you know it's at your expense. Okay? And everybody was just, and the boy, he was like, yeah, okay. And I was like, yeah, no, it is at your expense. It is at your expense. And Alicia was running around doing her thing, and I was just like, so, you said that you were in the Marines, right? He's like, yeah, and I'm like, yeah, I really don't believe you were. But this is true. This is very, very true. And it's a double entendre sort of true. Okay? Like, okay, whatever, because you don't want to steal power. Not from the Corps. Just, you don't want to do that. Not from any branch, but definitely not the Corps. And he was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I'm like, yeah. So I look at him, and I'm like, everybody in the room, and they're all like, yes, Lady Dori, about what do you have to say? It's like, so everybody, does anybody in this room know what is the sound when shit hits the fan? And the boy is just like, how is this? I didn't ask you. And everybody in the room, oh, I look over at Mike, I'm like, I know you'll appreciate this joke. And he was just like, I don't know. What are you talking about? What is the sound that I'm really confused right now? And I'm like, okay, nobody knows the answer? Okay. I said, well, when shit hits the fan, and in reference to World War II, D-Day, all that, the guys, a few other things, but those guys know. I said, when shit hits the fan, you hear, Maureen. And the boy just looked at me and was like, he got pissy and he left. I was like, that's right. Everybody have a good night. Sorry for interrupting you, see. Just had to get that out. And so he apparently had his feelings hurt. He texted me a bunch and I said, I don't care. He was mad that he had to have one of his friends who he was staying at his friend's fiance's parents' house. And I was like, so you guys were out at the club. That guy was trying to hit on someone while you're staying at that guy's fiance's parents' house. And his friends threw a fit and had an attitude with me. I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to, just write a quick little letter. Here you go. That was from me, by the way, because I figured that those parents of that female who was off doing whatever missionary stuff, or call it whatever she was doing, probably were not expecting that and I was just, I'd rather just, and then I got a text message because, how dare you, no, how dare you? Who do you think you are going to an event that Alicia invited you to, that you throw a temper tantrum, that you go do this, you go do that, and you expect me to be apologetic to you? I don't think so. And as far as the boy that was living in his fiance's parents' house, if that girl, female, whatever, and that male did not have an agreement that that was acceptable, and that boy was staying at her parents' house, I don't care. And so, that was me. I did it. So, yeah. But if that boy, who, when I met him, is about this tall to me, and he was broad shoulder, kind of ish, muscular-ish arms. He had curly-ish hair at the time, which had kind of like a man bun thing going on. And then freckles and whatever, like, yeah. If he, don't have patience for childish garbage like that. And so, yeah, if I saw a picture of what he looked like back then, I'd be able to identify that, as that's been proven in certain other things in reference to CID. And so you guys have a good one. Yeah.